Hi there. Good morning to you.
Kevin Wayne Johnson, what's up, man?
Hey, how's it going?
I'm good. Nice
Good
to
to,
meet you.
yeah, likewise. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Where are you coming out of?
I am in the Washington, D.C., Baltimore area. So I'm just north of the nation's capital and just south of Baltimore.
I always have so much fun when I go to DC. It's such a cool place.
Yeah, it's really nice and good place to be, um, depending on how thankful ill.
Yeah.
But the weather here is pretty decent and we have a lot of fun here. I've been here for about 30 years.
Oh, cool, man.
Yeah, in the area. So far, so good.
Yeah, the last time I was up there was right around, I think 2002 after 9/11. I
Hmm.
took one of my students, I ran a couple computer labs for a YMCA, and one of the kids won a grant through AT&T, and we went up there, and I'd been
Cool.
up there before, so I got him all into the whole scene and to see everything and take the subway, and he was just freaking out because he just had never done anything like that.
That's
And then
good. That's good stuff.
yeah, and then you see the antiquity and the history and all of that. It's cool.
Good, good,
Yeah.
good. Well, I
Well,
appreciate being on board. Good to meet you,
yeah, good to
and
meet you.
grateful for the opportunity.
Yeah, man, it's great to meet you too. And I want to start everything off with kind of the global elephant in the room, which was living through COVID the last 3 years. How did you make it through it, and how has it changed the way that you do things now?
I made it through pretty well, quite frankly. I understand the importance of the medical professionals and taking their advice. I'm a former government employee, 34 years before I retired. So when I hear FDA and when I hear CDC, when I hear those executives giving advice on what we should do and why we should do it, I pretty much take their word. So we did everything that we were supposed to do to stay safe. My wife did catch COVID once. It kind of took her down for about 4 days, but then she bounced back. It got me once, put me down for 2 days, but I was able to bounce back. And we believe in vaccinations and we believe in the boosters. We just believe in good health and following the advice from our medical professionals. From that perspective, on a personal basis, that's pretty much how it went. Our sons, we have three sons, they were all fine. One is in Columbia, South Carolina, and the others are here in this area where we are just north of Washington, D.C., and south of Baltimore. But they came through with no issues at all. They stayed safe, they were vaccinated, and they were boosted as well. On a professional level, things just shifted from being in person as a leadership development facilitator, trainer, et cetera, and a coach to doing everything virtual. And quite frankly, we just had to modify and revise the curriculum, the agenda, and just deliver it in a virtual format, which means I had to take a couple of extra steps in getting certified and credentialed and being a virtual presenter, a virtual speaker. But once I learned all of those different platforms, Adobe Connect, Cisco WebEx, Microsoft Teams, Zoom, Canvas, all of these different technology platforms and became certified in terms of being able to facilitate, things kind of quieted down and worked out pretty well. So long story short, it was a really, really valuable lesson, quite frankly, a lot of quiet time, time to reflect, self-assess, look in the mirror, make sure that I'm doing good, check my own health, and then check in on others as well. And we got through it. I mean,
Yeah,
that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
that's right. You should. Yeah, no, that's good. And I think Mother Nature wins. If you get in an arm wrestling match with Mother
Oh,
Nature,
please.
uh-uh.
We don't stand a chance.
Ain't gonna happen. So let's get to the essence of what you do for a living. I'm gonna hypothetically put you in front of a bunch of third grade students at a grade school. One of the kids looks up at you and says, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer them?
Well, I just let everybody know that I am at heart a leadership development trainer. In my DNA and core to who Kevin Wayne Johnson is that I want to pour into the lives of others and helping them to understand the merits and the importance of being a good leader. That's at home, in your neighborhood, in your social civic organizations, in your church, in your workplace. In other words, everywhere that you are, because the verbal words that we use matter and the nonverbal messages that we send matter. And because we're created to be relational, it's very important that leaders understand that it's more than just being smart and knowing your stuff, but it's about how you interact with and treat other people. That's really what makes the best leaders. And the reason I'm so passionate about it is because number one, I love it. But number two, I experienced it over a lifetime, 34 years with the federal government and 22 years in ministry leadership. And I'm the father of 3 sons. So, and it also didn't hurt that I'm the son of a U.S. Marine. So a lot of what I learned at home, I take out in the community. And so I'm a firm believer that better leaders help to make the world a much better place.
Yeah, you've been refined like a diamond, man. You're
Yeah,
right. You're right there.
absolutely. And
So
you know what it takes for a diamond to materialize over time, right?
pressure.
Pressure. Yeah.
So let's get to the essence of how this pressure, the release, and everything that goes into it. Let's go back to your childhood. Where were you born and raised, and what were the seeds that were planted in you that made you become a leader and want to make leaders?
Yeah, that's really an excellent question because it always begins with the end in mind. And oftentimes we get on these journeys and we forget about how we got started. Well, everything with me started at home. Mom and dad had 2 sons. I'm the eldest. I have 1 brother. And my brother was born with a mental disability. Now, we're sons of U.S. Marine. So I was born on the Quantico Marine Corps Base, which is just north of Fredericksburg, Virginia, and just south of our nation's capital. And my brother was born Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, another Navy base. And in between, we lived in Paris Island, South Carolina, where dad was a drill sergeant. And I remember as a little boy how miraculous it was to watch this kind, gentle father at home, but then to watch him in terms of how he dealt with his recruits as a drill sergeant and literally drill them and work them and yell and scream at them and really not treat them very well. And I was really amazed at that leadership, how he could shut that off and then come home and be a kind and compassionate and loving father. So that always intrigued me early on. Now, while dad was away fighting in America's wars, I was at home with mom as a young fella, having to watch after my brother because of his mental disability and his neurological conditions. He couldn't quite advocate for himself. So I had to help to lead and negotiate and be there and support. And so I got that very early on experience with leadership right there in the home. And then fast forward many, many years later, after college, I meet this young lady, we fall in love, we get married, and then from our union, we have 3 sons. And interestingly enough, the 3rd son comes along, and for his first 2 years, he doesn't utter a word. He does everything else a baby does and a child would do. He'd run, jump, skip, laugh, he gets hungry, etc. But he didn't say anything. So we knew something wasn't right. And sure enough, we took him in and he was diagnosed with autism. So, as a leader of the home, I have 2 choices, right? I can get upset and say, oh, here we go again. I've already lived this life. Why me? Or you step up to be the dad that you are created to be, and you make sure that you're there for your son, even until today. So that's why I have matriculated, and that's why I'm so sensitive, and I have such a close eye on leaders and leadership, because I do firmly believe, quite frankly, it has more to do with how we treat people, how we show respect for people, and not take advantage of people than it does our acumen. Because a person expects for their leader, their supervisor, their manager, they expect for them to know their stuff. That's how you get your credibility. It's expected if you have the title and you have the position that you're a subject matter expert. That's an expectation. But here's the key: to keep people from voting with their feet and to keep people content and eager to show up and give their best and do their best is the leader that knows how to treat people, to develop them, to pour into them. And that's the difference maker. And so, listen, I've seen many, many people try to take advantage of my brother because of what he doesn't know. And I'm very protective of my son because I know we live in a nation, unfortunately, where people take advantage of people based upon what they don't know. That's the way of the world. That's the reality. And leadership helps to avoid that from happening by being present, by valuing people, by caring for people. And so that's why I'm on this journey. And quite frankly, I'm having a really, really good time because I'm in my lane. This is the lane that I'm supposed to be in. And I don't go to the left, I don't go to the right. I stay focused on what it is I'm doing.
You know, my son's 18. He's on the autism spectrum. I've been in the special needs world for a while now. And I was telling him the other night, we were going through some things and talking about his abilities. And I said, I've always been the type to keep you on a timeline. I'm going to have you ride a bike, even if people say it's not time. I'm going to have you do things because your mind will get to a point where you can do whatever you want to do.
Mhm.
And you're not going to hear the voices that people put in your head or the voices that you think you have in your head. You can do anything that you want to do. And as
Mhm.
parents, and we saw this with COVID, we aren't in control of a lot of things, but we are in control of one thing. And that's how we love the people around us and protect them. So I
Yep,
get it. 100%.
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm over here giving you a hand clap. That's it.
It,
So can you imagine now, can you imagine if more people took that approach
mhm.
in their workplace
No, yeah.
as it relates to just being patient and persistent and consistent and caring for people who might not be at our level intellectually, but with the right development and care, they can get there because everybody has potential. And that's why I focus on the heart, and that's why I also focus on the mind, and where those two align really makes the best leaders. So a lot of what we do and experience and communicate is really based upon our background, what we've seen, what we've experienced. And for me, it started in the home.
You know, the one thing I think that's very evident and the best example I think in my mind when you were talking about leadership are two very stark different presidencies. President Obama always made us feel good. No matter what happened, you knew you had someone that was in there that was looking out for us, that had compassion, that had caring. And we've had another president that was thinking more about themselves. And I think that's the thing about leadership. When you stop worrying about what everybody else around you is doing, and you hone in on what you're doing. I remember years ago when I worked at the YMCA, there was a woman that used to work at one of the YMCA's, and it was an older woman that used to just rock the babies. Okay.
Mhm.
The young kids would just bellyache about how she got paid and she didn't do anything. And it's like, are you kidding me? Not only do you not know what goes into that, but why are you worried about her? She's bringing comfort to a new soul on this planet, and you're worried about her. You probably aren't even doing your job because you're so worried. So there's all of these elements. When I hear you talk about leadership and the decades that I've spent in company life, if people would just worry about what they're doing instead of saying, well, they aren't doing this or they aren't doing that, they're wasting all that time and energy. Because you know what? They're not thinking about that. You are. You're taking that crucible on, and it's wild, because really it's a lot of things in life come down to very simple things,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah.
and if you can become the master of your own domain, there you go.
Yep. Well said. I mean, you're on point. That's it right there. So we have work to do. And that's why I'm passionate about the work. And when I'm before different audiences, when they hear it and see it, I can see in their body language that they get it. But we have to communicate it because we don't always get this in school.
Yeah,
So this is one of those, well, I've got my degree moments, right? You didn't get this in school. You got the foundation and the basics and the fundamentals, but there's not really a lot of practical application. So now that you know, I hold people accountable to now do what you know. I have a little phrase that goes, know better, do better,
that's it.
lead better,
Yeah,
right? And I came up with that a few months ago. I'm going to see if I can trademark it. We'll see what happens.
get it on a sticker or a shirt. You got it. That's
Yep.
compact enough. So who's been a hero for you in your life?
Two, two people. The first one is Pastor Miles Monroe. He founded many, many years ago the Faith Bahamas International Ministries. He's a pastor and a business leader who traveled the globe, helping us to better understand basic biblical and business principles. how to manage your money, how to treat people, what leadership is all about, etc. So he's always been very influential. I read his book way back in 1993 called Discover Your Potential. It's something about that word potential that always resonates with me. And then fast forward, the next gentleman he's no longer with us as well. Dr. Monroe is no longer with us. The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., light years ahead of his time. When I get a chance to go to Atlanta, I always stop by the King Center, even though I've been there 58 times. I just get something new and different. I periodically listen to some of his speeches, and it just really hits me how far ahead he was in terms of his thinking and trying to get us on track as Americans and as a nation. Following him in 1964 to Oslo, Norway, to be the youngest recipient at that time of a Nobel Peace Prize with his wife. It just really resonates with me, the words that he speaks. And so both of those gentlemen really come to mind first and foremost. There's others as well, but those two were particularly impactful and continue to be even now in 2023.
So if you could meet a leader alive right now and spend some time, and it would be kind of a mutually beneficial moment, who would you love to meet?
I think it would be Mahatma Gandhi, quite frankly. Amazed at his approach, a relatively short, frail man in stature, but his influence around the world, absolutely incredible. And his nonviolent approach to people that were oppressing him and his people. I like to sit down, just have a conversation. How did you come up with this approach? Weren't you afraid? Weren't you concerned about some of the repercussions from some of your stances? Just like to have a conversation over a meal and kind of pick his brain. Yep, absolutely. Mother Teresa too. I mean, again, very small in stature. I mean, both of them remind me of my maternal grandmother, who was barely 5'3", barely weighed 115 pounds, but so influential.
Yeah.
Wow, it's amazing. So Mother Teresa would probably be another person that I would like to tap into and say, well, what's on your mind? What led you to take such a bold stance?
Yeah.
And I just like to hear from their words, right? Not make an assumption, but kind of hear from their words.
Absolutely. So it makes me think too. I have a jazz radio show, and when I started it, my whole goal was to talk to musicians, not to take anything from the books. It's always good when you can hear from them because it's their story. It's their way of doing things. So what is that fire in you every day that makes you who you are and leads you through accomplishing what you want to get done?
It really comes down to this. I am going to do something that I didn't necessarily think would be possible. And I'll just give you a quick example. So I'm in my post-retirement years, 34 years with the federal government. I retired coming up 6 years, October of this year to be 6 years. And I stood up a company, the Johnson Leadership Group, leadership development training, executive coaching, mentoring, speaking, but all on the topic of leadership. I'm an author as well. I had never been an entrepreneur. I've never owned a business. I've never really focused 100% of my time on running a business, doing business development, managing the books, going to networking events, posting on social media, making sure my website is up to date. This is a new adventure. But I tell you, it keeps me smiling because I'm learning so much each and every day, winning new contracts each and every day, serving new clients each and every day, gleaning from people that are pouring into me while I'm pouring into other people. It's not something that was necessarily on the radar 10, 20 years ago, but it's just something that I enjoy doing post-retirement. And I would have never thought that I would be doing this. So now that I'm doing it, so my goal is to build and sustain and maintain over a certain number of years a $1 million company, so that at a certain point, I'm going to sell it for a minimum of $1 million. That's the goal. 10 years ago, I wasn't thinking like that, but it's been a fascinating run. And it's been 5 years, but I feel like I'm just getting started. It's like I got 20 more years left, and I can do this. And that's the motivator, and that's what keeps me going strong. I didn't go into this with any mentors. I didn't go into this having conversations with any other entrepreneurs. I just completed my paperwork with the federal government, my paperwork with the state of Maryland, my local paperwork with in the county that I live in, and just went to work and have been rocking and rolling ever since. And sometimes I even tell people, man, if I had known this, I would have retired sooner.
That's cool, man. So
Yeah.
let's say you have a dream tonight. You run into the 20-year-old version of yourself, and you could give
Mhm.
that younger version of you a piece of advice based on the wisdom and the life you've led. What would you tell that young version of you?
Make sure the relationships that you create and that you maintain, make sure they're sustained over a period of time. Right now, I know different people come into our lives in different seasons and for different reasons, and some come and some go. But to the best of your ability, don't just create it and don't just maintain it, but sustain it over a period of time. And the reason I would give my younger self that advice is because in many instances I've done well in that area, and then in other instances I have not done well. And I don't want the younger Kevin to have any regrets. Not that I have any, but you could potentially have some regrets if you don't sustain those relationships properly. So that's the advice I would give the younger Kevin.
So does that young version listen to you?
Yeah, I think so,
All right.
because yeah, I've always been pretty laser focused on whatever it is that's in front of me. You know, being a husband, being a father, being a good frontline leader, mid-level leader, senior level leader when I was in the federal government. I also wear a ministry hat, so you know I'm a pastor, so being laser focused on that. So yeah, he would have listened.
So you're quite diversified in what you do and who you are and the roles and groups that you have in your life. So
Mhm.
everyone has a perception of you. Family, friends, clients, colleagues, all of these people, your readers, but ultimately you're in control. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I think I'm a fun-loving, um, passionate. When I say passionate, lover of life type of guy who does his best to get along with everyone. I said does his best because no one is perfect, so we all fall short in that area. But I believe that that's the takeaway for Kevin Wayne Johnson, for both myself and other people as well.
So if anyone wants to get your book, hire you, learn more about your very interesting storied life prior to retirement and now in retirement, where can they go?
Well, I always tell people just to go to LinkedIn. LinkedIn is my favorite social media spot. Kevin Wayne Johnson. I use my full name primarily because I am an author, and Kevin Johnson without my middle name is just a very common name, so it's hard to find. But LinkedIn, and then the name of my company is the Johnson Leadership Group, and that's our website as well, www.thejohnsonleadershipgroup.com. They can find me there, and I'd love to connect and learn a little bit more about all the good people that are listening here and get a chance to meet you. Absolutely.
It was great to connect with you, Kevin. Thank you so much for taking time out. Best of luck with everything.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And listen, I appreciate the great work that you're doing, the invitation that you extended to me. I don't take it lightly. Thanks so much, and all the best to you as well.
Absolutely. This has been very enlightening. Have a great day.
All righty. You as well.
Take care.
Okay.